First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the listeners, the freestylers, the swagberries, and the Bija for such a wonderful presentation. But most especially, the listeners for being the grand openers for this, I would call it inescapable activity. in this faithful gathering. In the expedition of this activity, my group and I, specifically known as the Impros, in the perspective of this honorable coincidence, are going to elaborate on the topic of introduction. In speech making, in the process of speech making, introduction is always the first element that creates an impression that determines how the speech will go. Whether the speech is going to be interesting or uninteresting relies on the speaker's ability to meet certain objectives that create a pace for the speaker to write smoothly and connect with the audience with respect to the message. This comprises of 4 objectives, and the first objective is build connection with the audience. In other words, it means get attention and the interest of the audience. The second objective is to review the topic of the speech. The third objective is to establish credibility and goodwill. The last but not the least, review the body of the speech. Having mentioned all this, my respectable colleagues, basically, starting with Rachel, are going to inform you about what it means and how to meet these objectives. So Rachel is basically going to start with telling us how to get the attention and interest of the audience.
Like Stanley said, I'm going over how to get the interest and the attention of your audience. There's many ways to do this. One is you can relate the topic to your audience. Now you can give them a story, statistics, whatever, but it kind of draws them in. So if I'm talking about college students, I can relate the prices of books to my audience. That's one way to relate it. Another way is to state the importance of my topic. Now, I just don't come out here saying, this is important. No, I come out here and I give you information about why it is important. Like when I'm talking about breast cancer, I tell you it's important because this many women suffer for it, this many women die from it, this many people research it. I'm stating the importance of my topic. Another way to get your interest is to startle you. Now, I don't mean to clap or to scream or do something like that. No, I mean, you can do statistics or a question. So example would be, did you know there's 3 million fish in the ocean, and of that 3 million fish in the ocean, over half of them are extinct or are going to be extinct? Like something like that to startle you, to kind of get you to go, oh, really? And then pay attention. Another way is to arouse your curiosity. So I ask you questions like, do you know how it feels to be scared? Have you ever watched a scary movie? And I ask you questions to kind of help build your curiosity and give you the topic. Another way, or another 2 of them, are to tell a story and to give a quote. And the reason I combine them is because you don't want to make them too long. Because too long of a story, too long of a quote makes you lost. You start off with how awesome trees are, and you end with puppies, and you get lost. You're like, what's the topic now? And last but not least is you can ask them a question. And by question, I mean a rhetorical question. So if your topic is underwear, you ask them, have you ever been at the store and I wonder what kind of underwear to get? That's a good kind of question, rhetorical question. But a few things to keep in mind that when you're thinking about how to kind of grab your interest and attention of the audience, keep in mind you want to keep it brief, not too long of an intro. 5-minute intro, you get kind of bored. Also, be on the lookout for information when you research. So if you're researching your topic and you find an interesting little statistic or pictures, keep that in mind because it might help you with your intro. You might be like, I can use that later. Also, be creative. Who wants to listen to this minute-long, boring intro about turtles? When you can do something interesting in there. I mean, come on, be creative. Have fun with it. Also, don't stress about word for word for word. Who cares if it's not word for word? No one else is going to know except for you, the speaker. So don't worry about it. Also, practice, which is kind of contradictory to what I said, but kind of know what you're going to talk about and what your intro is going to be, because that helps build confidence, which can carry you on into the speech later on. Now, I said talking about the interest and grabbing your attention, but I also have to talk about revealing the topic. Now, that seems kind of simple, revealing the topic, but sometimes people kind of mess it up. When you're giving your intro, you have to remember you have to have that topic in there somewhere. And the best way to think of it is this little sentence or this little part of your intro that states the topic clearly, because you don't want them to get lost. Like if you use to tell a story in your intro, you're telling a story, and you kind of just throw the topic in there. They'll be confused and they won't know what you're talking about. So when you reveal your topic, make sure it's clear and concise. That way everyone knows what you're going to tell them about and what you're going to explain. Now, I got your attention. I told you what our topic was. Now you also have to establish credibility and goodwill when you give your intro.
When establishing credibility, When establishing credibility and goodwill, what does this mean? Have you ever listened to a speech where the person had no idea what they were talking about, they had one little fact in there that was not true at all, or something like that? Like for example, if you had a man come up here, ladies, tell me how you would feel about this, and he said, all women should be on birth control. Really? Well, you're not a woman and you don't have any experiences related to that, so I'm not interested in what you have to say. Or maybe you would be interested because you'd be like, oh, this guy's an idiot. Okay, so you want to establish ethos. Do you know what you're talking about? What do you have to offer to the audience? Gain credibility by mentioning your expertise or experience with the matter, primarily in the beginning of the speech, so that your audience knows where you're going. In order to gain goodwill, show you have something in common with the audience. The more that you have in common with the audience, the more you're going to trust them, and the more you trust them, the more receptive they're going to be to your message. Now that we have established that you should get the attention and interest of the audience, reveal your topic of speech, and establish your credibility and goodwill, we're going to go ahead and leave you with previewing the body of the speech.
Preview the body of speech. Sounds a bit complicated. I don't know, when I read it first, I was like, what's that? Preview the body of what? I went back into the book, and they actually have like a little shorter version of it, which is a preview statement. And they also defined it as a statement in the introduction of a speech that identifies the main points to be discussed in the body. So basically it's just a brief summary of your main points that you're going to talk throughout your whole speech. Therefore, a preview statement is a major component that a speaker needs in his intro because it makes a big difference in your speech. An example of that was when we saw the Chili Pepper video. The first time we saw it, the spokesperson just had his thesis. He didn't have a preview or anything. So when he started talking about his main points and everything, it was hard for us to grasp his main points. We were like, is that his main point or a sub point? And everything was kind of confused and fuzzy. But the second time he did a speech, he actually previewed his main points. And that made it more clear to the audience. And it was easier for us to grasp his main points and follow him, like follow everything that he was saying. And it was like more clear to us. So basically, a preview statement allows the audience to follow and understand the main points of your speech. And it's basically that. It's really simple. So in conclusion, we have covered get the attention of the audience, reveal the topic of speech, establish credibility and goodwill, and lastly, preview the body of speech. I guarantee that if you use these 4 components that we talked about, you will have an amazing intro to your next speech.